Hi, I'm Ian. Thanks for tuning in to another video episode of the Forgotten Weapons Library. So I want to start with a brief story this time. The nation of Nepal has been under British influence, part of the British Commonwealth, since 1816, when British forces finally and barely managed to defeat a Ghurka army and subdue the country, more or less. And ever since that time, the Nepalese have gotten kind of cast off British firearms. Every time the British army upgraded its weaponry, they would send the obsolete weapons to all the colonies, including Nepal. And Nepal is in kind of a unique position of having never ever thrown any of their guns away, ever. Every time they got a new standard weapon from the British, they would re-equip their military. They'd take the old guns and they'd stick them into storage in this really old 5-story palace in the middle of Kathmandu. And they kept doing this for about 200 years, 150 years, well up through World War II. And these are all obsolete guns that they don't use anymore, but they're not going to throw out. So this came to the attention of a couple weapons dealers, in particular Christian Cranmer from International Military Antiques. Found out about this cache of hundreds of really cool old British guns hidden away in Nepal. Found out about this while he was in boarding school and wasn't able to do anything about it. Well, not too long ago, in the 1990s, he finally managed to put together a trip over to Nepal. There was some political unrest in the area, and the Nepalese government was looking to raise some hard currency, and decided that they could sell off all of these old antique weapons to some international dealer and make a few bucks. And Cranmer was there at the right place at the right time, and made the winning bid on the batch, and ended up, in effect, buying the entire palace, everything in the palace, partly sight unseen. And so the first book we have today is called Treasure is Where You Find It. This is by Christian Cranmer, and this is actually the story of him going into Nepal, into this palace in Kathmandu, finding all these guns, and packing them up and bringing them back to the US for resale. Which may not sound all that interesting, but think about it. You've got 5 stories of old, decrepit Nepalese palace, full to the brim of guns stacked like cordwood. Literally, a layer this way, a layer that way, a layer this way, of everything that the British military had ever used. Some of these guns were actually British made and imported. Some of them were Nepalese made copies or Nepalese made designs very similar to the British guns. But everything from flintlocks to everything from flintlocks to cap locks, cartridge conversions like the Snyder Enfield, through bolt action rifles, falling block guns, Martini-Henrys and similar designs, a lot of Enfield rifles, and then even some World War II era guns. They found a number of Lewis guns, a bunch of Sten guns, edged weapons, bayonets, kukris, and something around on the order of 150 brass cannon, including some mortars, some howitzers. Just really cool stuff for someone who's into British Empire weaponry. The Nepalese got everything. Every time the British upgraded, they'd get rid of their old stuff and give it to the Nepalese, among others, and the Nepalese just kept it. So Treasure is Where You Find It it's an interesting book. It would make a decent coffee table book. I really think it's a bit short, it's a bit light for the actual coverage. It's a pretty thin volume. What they did do, what Christian Cranmer did do, is actually also put together a video on DVD of the same story, but instead of a handful of really nice printed pictures, there's a lot of footage from the palace and from their packing. They originally anticipated this job would take 6 weeks to go in and pack up all the guns and ship them out. And they were there for 5 months. 31 containers of guns and knives and bayonets and musket balls and all sorts of cool stuff. And in fairly difficult conditions. This palace was old enough that there was no running water, no electricity in it. The stairs were all pretty rickety. They brought a lot of the guns down out the window, down the side, outside of the building. They had to, knock open a hole in the wall to bring in a forklift because there was no road into the palace. So really fascinating story. Yeah, the book's nice. I wouldn't turn it down if I had a copy, but I wouldn't go out and buy it. I would get the video instead. The video is a lot more interesting to watch. Now, anyone who's interested in that story is going to want more than just cool footage of this exciting, finding all these cool guns and toys and pulling them out of the palace and what they had to go through to bring all these things back. We're going to want more information on the guns, right? Because that's the cool part. Well, there's a second volume that is also published by the same group. And basically, this is a research volume on the guns that IMA recovered from Nepal. Guns of the Ghurkas. This has the good information. This is going to go through and cover the history of each different type of firearm that was discovered or retrieved from Nepal, the variants. There's an interesting section here, for example, on the Ghurkas, which looks like a Martini-Henry, actually works on a different type of mechanism. It's much more similar to a Wesley Richards falling block firearm. And IMA actually has those very cheap right now. They're $190 for one that hasn't been restored. We went ahead and picked up one of those, and we're going to be doing some restoration on it. We'll have the video. So at the same time, I was looking for some information on these guns because the Ghurkas in particular was made in Nepal by the Nepalese. It wasn't made anywhere else. No one else has them. And until IMA brought this cache back to the US, Ghurkas were unknown in the modern world. None of them were out there. So there's some coverage of the Ghurkas and what it was used for and why it was made and when it was used. And this book, Guns of the Ghurkas, goes through all the Nepalese rifles like that. So there's sections on the Martinis, there's sections on flintlocks, there's sections on cartridge handguns, the revolvers that were found in the cache. Good information. This is the meat. We've got the story in Treasure is where you find it, the DVD and the book. And then we have the real meat of the historical research in Guns of the Ghurkas. It's a thicker book. This is definitely worthwhile. I would say for anyone who's interested in picking up one of IMA's guns, this is a good companion volume to go along because it describes where all of these came from and what part they played in history. And it's also an excellent book for someone who's just interested in a country that's not talked about very much, like Nepal. Where else can you go find a lot of information on Nepalese military history and their firearms in particular? Not a lot of places. So these books are both available on Amazon. You can also order them directly from IMA. We'll go ahead and post links in the notes below. So keep an eye out, and we'll have some coverage, some video coverage of our restoration of our Ghurkas, not quite a Martini rifle. And a lot of the historical information that we get to go along with it will have come from Guns of the Ghurkas here. So pick up a copy if you're interested, and I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching.